Nutty Putty Cave Incident. On the 24th of November, 2009, near Utah Lake in central Utah, 26-year-old John Edward Jones entered Nutty Putty Cave with his brother Josh and a group of friends from church. They carried standard gear helmets, headlamps, gloves, and knee pads, expecting a casual Thanksgiving week exploration. John, who had caved since youth, wanted to introduce his brother to the famous tight passages he'd explored as a teenager. The entrance was narrow and cold, a slanted crawl leading into warm, humid air. They entered around 8 p.m., laughing and calling out as their lights bounced off the slick, clay-coated limestone. Deeper inside, the group crawled through twisting tunnels with names like the Birth Canal and Bob's Push. The air grew heavy. Rocks pressed close on both sides, and water dripped rhythmically from the ceiling. The temperature held steady near 55 degrees Fahrenheit. John led, moving confidently through tight squeezes. When he spotted what looked like the entrance to a new passage, he told Josh he'd check it out real quick. The space narrowed. John slid headfirst down a tight, vertical crevice. Within seconds, his light hit a dead end. He tried to reverse nothing. His chest was pinned between stone, arms trapped at his sides. He exhaled to shrink his chest, but the rock only gripped harder. Panic rose. The sound of his breath echoed in the narrow shaft. "I can't move," he called out. Josh's flashlight beam barely reached his boots. Every breath hurt. Blood rushed to his head as he hung upside down, 30 feet below the surface. Rescuers arrived within an hour, hauling drills, ropes, and chisels. The passage was too narrow for equipment, and the rock too unstable to widen safely. They rigged pulleys to his legs, but the angle was wrong. He slid deeper. Oxygen and fluids were passed through a tube. Hours stretched into the night. After 24 hours, John's breathing slowed. His pulse faded. Rescuers could not free him. John Edward Jones was pronounced dead in the passage where he remained. The cave was permanently sealed, his body entombed within. Schroeder's Pants Cave Incident. On the 13th of February 1965, in Minnesota's Fillmore County, 3 friends, Thomas Swenson, 21 years old, Gary Baker, 22 years old, and Robert Bob Heller, 20 years old, first-time participant entered Schroeder's Pants Cave to map its newly discovered lower passages. Their gear was minimal: carbide lamps, helmets, a single rope, and a handheld compass. Snow crusted the bluffs outside, their breath fogged as they crouched at the cave mouth, a low, icy crack hidden by brush and limestone rubble. Inside, they descended a twisting chute into mud-slick tunnels. The light from their carbide lamps hissed against damp stone. Cold air pressed close. They crawled through knee-deep pools and slid down polished slopes into echoing chambers. Swenson marked the walls with chalk, noting new branches for survey. The deeper they went, the warmer it grew and the ceilings lower. Water dripped in steady rhythm, masking the sound of their movement. The collapse came without warning. A slab fractured overhead, slamming into the crawlway behind Heller. The sound was thunder in stone. Dust blinded them. Heller screamed, his leg pinned under a block the size of a refrigerator. Panic filled the space, the air thick with clay and grit. Baker tried to dig with bare hands, his breath ragged. Every shift of the rock sent pebbles cascading. Water began to seep through cracks, rising inch by inch. Swenson crawled back toward the entrance for help, scraping his elbows raw against the rock. He emerged 2 hours later, frostbitten and shaking. Rescue crews from the sheriff's office arrived with crowbars and sledgehammers. Progress was agonizingly slow. Each swing risked another collapse. After 8 hours underground, they reached Heller. He was still breathing but pale, shock setting in. The rescuers freed him just before dawn, his leg shattered but intact. He survived after multiple surgeries. Pierre St. Martin Cave Incident. In August 1952, in the Pyrenees near Saint-Ingras, France, a French caving expedition led by Marcel Lubens, 31 years old. Alongside him were Norbert Castaret, 48 years old, and Georges Lepenu, 33 years old, Their mission: to map the newly discovered shafts reaching over 300 meters deep. They carried carbide lamps, leather harnesses, steel carabiners, and a powered winch for hauling supplies. The cave's mouth yawned from the mountainside, cold air rushing out like breath from the earth. They rappelled one by one down immense drops. At 250 meters, they established a platform to rest and record readings. The air was damp, metallic, and still. Lubens adjusted his harness for the next descent, joking about the world below the world. A mechanical fault in the cable drum snapped the line. Lubens dropped, then the secondary safety line caught, jerking him violently. His body slammed against the shaft wall. A sickening crack echoed through the cavern. He was left dangling, unconscious, 50 meters above the lower chamber. When Castoret reached him, Lubens had regained awareness but couldn't feel his legs. The fall had fractured his spine. Blood trickled down his face, pooling in his helmet rim. Rescuers rigged a stretcher system, improvising anchors in the slick limestone. They worked by lantern light, hauling inch by inch through narrow, vertical squeezes. Every lift risked another fall. Lubens stayed calm, whispering instructions despite the pain. After 20 hours, progress halted. The hoist motor failed again. Trapped halfway up, they decided to bivouac until morning. By dawn, Lubens' pulse had faded. He died deep underground, still lashed to the rope. His body remained in the cave for a year, before recovery was possible.